Sports Connection. I'm your host, Tracy Abdullah, joined by my co-host, three-time NFL All-Pro Carl Lee, and we are joined by the men's basketball coach here at West Virginia State University. We've actually taken the show on the road. We're in the beautiful Walker Convocation Center. Coach, this center is amazing.
It really is. They did a fantastic job, 5 years ago, putting this thing together. We're really proud of it. I think it's the best arena in the conference, and I think it's a really nice arena in the area as well.
Coach, one of my questions, I want to jump in really on that one because, obviously I coached here for a long time and you were here when I was here. What did this do for you recruiting-wise and just as a feel as a coach having a team now playing here versus where you used to play?
Yeah, the pit.
Yeah.
The pit. Go ahead and say it, the pit. When you walk a recruit in here, obviously it has that wow factor. And so whereas the pit didn't have that,
right.
And you had to kind of explain to them how great it was to play in the pit, which I think the atmosphere up there was fantastic.
Loud.
But now you walk into here and you got that wow factor. I was a little concerned when they first opened it up how the acoustics was going to be, how loud it would be, because the pit, that noise bounced off the walls. But this place is also very, very good too. The video boards that we've got, the locker rooms that we have, I mean, it's really, our locker room's a D1 complex. So on the recruiting side of it, we don't lose to anybody on the arena and the locker room.
It's interesting you said the wow factor, because when I came down here to scout this out, it was the first time I'd walked in here and I literally said wow, because I remember being a student here. I remember the pit. I remember one of the very first things I ever did in terms of television or radio or anything was I called the men's basketball program over in the pit, and I was nervous and I was scared, but you're right, that noise just bounced off the walls and it was such an intimate setting. But when I walked in here, I was literally like, wow.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And, we're able to host events here, recruiting events, as well as, the FCA brings their tournament here. Now, Rick Green's brought the little general shootout down here as well. So we're getting a lot of kids to campus just by this venue. That could possibly turn out to be, prospective students for us.
And for alumni, I know alumni have always been attached to their things. How much of a swing was it for the alumni to be excited about this and leaving the pit? Because I know a lot of times alumni really want to hold on to some of that history, and especially here, history's so important that anything that you change, you kind of got to run it through the system. What was their thought process, and did they embrace it easily?
I think they have. They were a little upset, some of them, with getting rid of the pool. The swimming pool, if you remember, that was attached to it.
Right.
That was really a money pit because it needed a lot of renovation to it just to operate and function. But we had to get rid of the pool. The good thing is we still have the pit. The pit's still here, so they can still go up there and see it. We just don't play games up there anymore.
Right.
But it's great to have actually two facilities as well, because now baseball, softball can practice upstairs while men's basketball, women's basketball is practicing down here. So it was much, much needed.
I was going to ask you, what if at all the pit is being used for now?
Yeah, it's still classrooms in the morning time, and then in the afternoon it's baseball, softball practicing up there. Occasionally, like when they're getting ready, because we have graduation here, so when they're getting ready for graduation, it takes 3 or 4 days to set it up and all that. We practice upstairs in the pit, so it still gets a lot of use. I've even thought about maybe having a throwback game. Play one game up there.
That would be really fun.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, all the championships we won when I was here was one up in the pit. So I may get rid of this place, show the recruits this, but play the games
up there.
Yeah.
Well, and you know how we talk about it, whatever it takes. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
When you first found out that this thing was going to happen, because I know you were a big part of it, what were your thought process, or how did you get into the guts of making this thing happen?
First off, I mean, the state gave us the bulk of the money. And so at first it was a big committee, which I was a part of, that went into, trying to design it and see what all we wanted to try to put in it and all those things. Then the committee kind of got pared down a little bit and sized down a little bit. Myself, I mean, I was involved in baskets, picking out baskets and chair backs, some of those kind of things, a lot with the locker room. You know, I got to design the locker room and what I wanted in the locker room.
So you actually designed that?
Yeah, to a degree. I'm not going to take it all. Jody Driggs at Sillings and Associates, if he sees this, he'll be mad. I'm not going to take it all, but I told him what we wanted in there, you know, and we wanted a social area, which we have, where they can watch TV and hang out with couches and chairs, players' areas where their lockers are, and then we also have another area that is our film room. So those are the areas that, you know, I got really heavily input on. And then, of course, the video boards was kind of one of my babies, too. At first, we were just going to have a picture board up there that didn't have a video. And so then when I saw some other people have video boards, I'm like, we need to, you know, this is our chance. We need to do it right this time. And so I went to Dr. Hemphill at the time, and he said, sure, you can do it, but you got to raise the money. So we ended up doing that with the help of Lester Raines, and raised the money to upgrade from just a picture board to a video board. So those were the things, and then the statue out front, that's also my personal little baby there of Earl Lloyd, that I was really heavily involved in that.
And excuse me, and I'm not sure people understand that the importance of a locker room. And you know, I've been back to Minnesota, and they've got the new facility. Their locker room is unbelievable. I mean, it's like, would I even come in there with my cleats on? And people don't get that becomes one of the most critical pieces for a coach and his team, because that's where everything is going to be done at. That's all the conversation. That's where the guys are going to bond. And it almost has to be a place where, like, it's a hangout. So, like, when you don't have anything to do, it's almost like, hey, I can go to the locker room, I can watch TV, sit on the couch, listen to music, and I don't have to be anywhere else. And you know what? I'm going to have my guys with me, too. And so was it hard to be part of that? I mean, was there any fight with, like, well, no, we think it ought to be like this, and you come in and say, no, I think I need to be the one to design this?
Yeah, no, it wasn't much at all. You know, when Dr. Hemphill took over and he raised some extra dollars, because they're for, you know, all the things that we wanted in here, the price tag was going to be pretty high. So they had to cut some things down. There was a little bit of talk of the locker room, and that's the one that I really fought for. Is because, like you say, I mean, that's home.
Yeah.
That's where a lot of things happen. That's where you need players to want to come to hang out, and that's really what it's turned into. I mean, our guys will bring Xboxes in there, and they'll play video games. They'll watch games. They do homework in there. I bought them some of those Normatex leg recovery things, so those are in our locker room, so they can sit there and watch TV, get their leg recovery system on, get some rehab done.
Yeah.
All that's done in the locker room. And so that's a place that, you know, we really had to do right.
Well, that had to be, I mean, with this facility, those locker rooms, that's got to give you a big boost in recruiting. To kind of piggyback on what Carl said earlier, I mean, does that give you a leg up on the competition in this conference or any other place?
It does a little bit, but I know Fairmont's got a really nice locker room too. West Liberty's got a super locker room as well. Wheeling, so I mean, you know, it's like WVU's got that great practice facility, but so does Kansas, and so does Texas, and so does, you know, everybody else. So, you know, it's an arms race. And within, you know, the Division II, just like Division I, you want to have the nicest stuff so you don't lose on that. You know, you're not going to lose on the locker room. Well, I'm not going there because our locker room's terrible. We're not going to lose kids on that. We might lose kids for other reasons, but not because of our locker room and our facilities now.
And Dr. Hemphill, he was a major factor in changing that dynamic for West Virginia State as a whole. I mean, I felt like when he came in, his goal was around sports. He wanted it to be something. Tell us a little bit about his interest and importance to not just football, not just basketball, but to the major sports. He understood and knew how important it needed to be if you're going to have sports programs and what sports does for the school as a whole.
Absolutely. I mean, when he came in, like I said, the money that the state had given us wasn't enough to finish this. And so when he came in, he wanted to do it right. And so he did a lot of fundraising. I think even maybe refinance some debt and all these things to where that we could do this thing, because the state gave us $15 million, I believe, and it ended up costing us around $20 million. And so there was a gap there where we had to cover to do what we wanted to do. He knew the importance of it, but you know, he also knew the importance of building a new dorm, which he did that as well.
Yeah.
So I mean, he did a lot of great things for the university while he was here. New athletics was, you know, a student-driven thing that, you know, on this campus that you need to recruit students as well.
All right, I'm going to cut you off right there. We got to take a quick commercial break. Don't go away. We'll be right back. We're talking to Bryan Poore from the men's basketball program at West Virginia State University. We'll be right back.
You can do and you can say anything you want. Live your life and I'll live mine any way I want. You can have and you can take anything you want. But everything that you do, make it what you want. Anything you want, and I want. You can do and you can say anything you want. But everything that you do, make it what you want.
This isn't just a beer. It's a lager. A medium-bodied, amber-colored, one-of-a-kind beer. Made from those bold enough to brew it, for those bold enough to drink it. Tap into your inner eagle. Yingling Traditional Lager. Spread your wings.
It's football season again, and Tony the Tailor has the perfect sportswear, outerwear, and footwear. Johnny O quarter zips and sport shirts, Bill's khakis, and boots from Allen Edmonds are what the smart people are wearing this season for game time and play time. We have a great selection in our downtown Charleston store, or shop at our new downtown Huntington location. Can't make it in? Shop online at bestmastertailor.com. Tony the Tailor, West Virginia's finest men's store.
West Virginia Sports Connection is brought to you by Subway, Development of West Virginia, Greg Hammond. With promotional consideration from Sprague's Distributing Company, Yingling Golden Pilsner, Hendrickson and Long. West Virginia Sports Connection is
Welcome back to West Virginia Sports Connection. We are coming to you from the campus of West Virginia State University in the beautiful Walker Convocation Center, and we're talking with the head men's basketball coach, Bryan Poore. Coach, when we went out, we were talking about recruiting. One question I want to know is, when you bring in, and Dr. Hemfield and how he's improved stuff here before he moved on, when you bring a recruit in here, what's the process? What happens? Because you hear all these stories when, you know, programs bring recruits in and they have their name up in lights and a jersey. So what does a kid see when you bring them in here?
Yeah, you
Depends on how good they are.
That's true, Carl. Yeah, some of them you roll out the whole red carpet. Some of them just halfway. But no, I always like to bring them through the front door and bring them in to see the statue first, because I think that's a big part of our history. That, you know, all the recruits that I ever asked, who was the first African American to ever play in the NBA, they can't answer it. Nobody has ever answered it correctly. Never. No recruit has ever answered that question correctly. So that's important for us to, not only for me, Earl Lloyd was a special man. And so I want to share his legacy and spread his legacy, not only with our recruits, but just all over the country as well, because it's a sad story that nobody knows him. So I bring him through there, show him the statue, talk about Earl. He played here. Then we'll bring him into the arena. And of course, we've got the video boards on, usually with one of their pictures on it, with their name and welcome to, you know, West Virginia State and all those kinds of things. And then we've got some slides there that talks about our accolades that we've had since we've been here, championships we've won, All-Americans that I've coached, those kinds of things. And then we'll take them up into the locker room complex and kind of walk them through there, and usually have a nameplate for them already and their jersey number out. So, I mean, you got to do those things to kind of, and it's kind of neat to see them because they all get their phones out and want to take pictures and Snapchat it and all that stuff. So you know they're impressed by it.
Well, looking at a lot of local athletes, and I saw this toward the end of my coaching career, it's hard now for to recruit local kids who are talented, because they're thinking Division I, they're thinking Marshall or WVU, and it's like they're not really thinking that D2 fits them. Or, you know, I'm not going to State, I'm not going to UC or one of the conference schools. And one of the things that has always amazed me about West Virginia State is there's so much hidden history here that if you're a young man or a young woman and African American especially, but period, and you're local, I mean, this place has such history in West Virginia that it's amazing to me. And I wonder, I know for you in sports, I know for me in sports, we focused around the sporting piece of it, man, but there's so much more history. What does state do to promote that locally to where some of our kids understand how relevant this university is and where it's come from and the people who have come from that? Because I really still feel like that matters and can impact kids who have high hopes but are probably more likely going to end up at this level and may not come at all.
Sure, yeah, and you know, I think we do a pretty good job of telling our story. I think, like you said, the local kids here are like, oh, it's just state. Oh, it's just state. And so they don't really hear it, you know? So I think we do a pretty good job of telling our story. The statue of, you know, the Lady Dorothy, last name's slipping me here, but Johnson, all right, who, you know, figured out how to get us to the moon. She went to school here, you know? Earl Lloyd, the first African-American to play in a game, to win a championship, to coach, he went to school here. And so there's a lot of stories like that, and all the generals in the armies that have went through this place. You know, there's a huge story here, but I think the local kids kind of maybe take West Virginia State for granted, if you will, and just kind of look at it as that's just state, and they, you know, they don't really look at us that closely.
And a lot of times on that too, and I saw this in football, the kids that you get just automatically assume, oh, when I get there, you know, I'll be able to play. And all of a sudden, you walk inside of one of these buildings or you walk on the football field, the dynamics are so much different than what it was at, say, South Charleston High School or anywhere like that. All of a sudden, you've got men playing, and you're talking about talent that you've never seen before. So that's a shock for them as well.
Oh, it absolutely is, and that's, you know, one of the things. And I love recruiting local kids, and I want to as much as I can. And I think Cookie Miller's telling me we have more local kids on our team, West Virginia kids, right now than we've ever had. Counting our red shirts and kids walk-ons and all that. I mean, we've got 7 or 8 of them right now. And so I love recruiting local kids, but I also understand that we can't live and die by just local kids.
Right. Absolutely.
Got to get some players from out of the area. Because one of the things that kind of hurts them is they play right here in this area, and the talent's good, but you go to an inner city, you go to Washington, D.C., you go to a Cleveland, you go to a Columbus, and you see the talent that's there. It's just so much higher. So the good kids here don't really get challenged when they're in high school. And then when they show up to college, now it's a whole different ballgame.
And I think part of that has to do with the competition piece. Not that they're not playing against enough competition, but they find themselves not really competitive. Like, I think I can beat Coach Poore right in one-on-one. But now when we go to play, and all of a sudden you cross me over, now I really don't even want to do it. You know, it's like I don't want to now try to work to get harder. And I think that's one of the things that we're lacking at the high school coaching level, of understanding or explaining to these kids, college is a whole nother step. College, whether it's D1, D3, D2, it's going to be a major step for you to play. I don't know if that's getting transferred in the high school level, because I think you just be a great high school player, you just automatically assume I can go to state and play.
Sure, yeah, I would agree with that. And you know, some of the kids that have come in here, local kids, they transition a little quicker than others. One that we've got right now, Anthony Pittman. I mean, I can't wait to get him on the floor, you know, from Capital. I mean, I thought he would be a year or so away, but if he was able to play right now, he would be one of our best players right now as a freshman. So, you know, we love the local kids. Hopefully we'll keep getting them.
I want to talk about this year's team. You're about 500 ball right now. And I want to talk specifically about Pat Johnson.
Agwu.
I just want to make sure you say it first before I butcher it. So he's averaging like, what, 23 points. He's leading it, which leads the team. He's leading the team in rebounding at 7 a game, and he's second in steals. What's that guy mean to your team, and is he the unspoken or spoken leader for everybody that's playing with him?
He's both. Sometimes he's quiet, but he is our leader. I mean, he's our best player right now. When he plays with energy and with passion, he's one of the best 3 players in the conference, I would say. He was a first-team All-League player last year as a junior, putting up really good numbers for us right now. And he's the focal point. of the other team's defense, and he's still putting up 22, 23 points. So phenomenal athlete. Didn't pick up basketball until he was in 10th grade. He was a football player. Free safety, as a matter of fact, at 6'5", 210 pounds, free safety. And Carl, it's amazing, the balls that he catches just all the way back here or up there, throw it anywhere close to him, he catches it one-handed, whatever it takes. I'm sure he was a great football player, but decided to play basketball. Finished his high school career and thought that was it. And then a junior college kept calling him and really kind of begged him to come and play junior college basketball. And so now he's turned into this, which I think he's somebody that, could go overseas and end up making some, money playing professionally.
How hard is it to find a player in that has all of those tools? Rebounding, assist, scoring. That typically doesn't all go to one guy, right?
Right.
So what is that like?
It's tough. And the one thing that I've tried to get him to do is develop that jump shot. Because, he can get to the basket with ease on any two people you put on him, all right? But they back up off of him, and he's got to improve his jump shot from the outside a little bit. Worked on it some, but he's a dynamic player. We got him. I never even saw him play in college, all right, in his junior college. I got him after the fact. And to your point, most kids, thinking they want to go Division I, they want to go Division I, and so they're thinking that right now. So I need to wait a little bit longer until reality hits, and they're like, okay. Yeah. Coach K's not going to call me this week, so now I need to look at some other places, and that's when I kind of, roll in there and kind of scoop them up. But we had a kid named Ernest Jenkins who plays for us now. He's a junior. His uncle was his junior college assistant coach. There's your connection.
Connections work.
Yeah.
Listen, I got to catch up here. We got to take another commercial break. Hey, don't go away. We got a special treat for you when we come back. We're going to see that famous statue Coach was talking about. And if you like what you see, you can check us out on Facebook, on YouTube, on Apple, iTunes, and our website at wvsportsconnection.com. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
You can do and you can say anything you want. Live your life and I'll live mine any way I want. You can have and you can take anything you want, but everything that you do, make it what you want. Anything you want, and I want. You can do and you can say anything you want, but everything that you do, make it what you want.
This isn't just a beer. It's a lager. A medium-bodied, amber-colored, one-of-a-kind beer. Made from those bold enough to brew it, for those bold enough to drink it. Tap into your inner eagle. Yingling Traditional Lager. Spread your wings.
It's football season again, and Tony the Tailor has the perfect sportswear, outerwear, and footwear. Johnny O quarter zips and sport shirts, Bill's khakis, and boots from Allen Edmonds are what the smart people are wearing this season for game time and playtime. We have a great selection in our downtown Charleston store, or shop at our new downtown Huntington location. Can't make it in? Shop online at bestmastertailor.com. Tony the Tailor, West Virginia's finest men's store.
West Virginia Sports Connection is brought to you by Subway, Development of West Virginia, Greg Hammond. With promotional consideration from Spriggs Distributing Company, Yingling Golden Pilsner, Hendrickson and Long. West Virginia Sports Connection is
First, we've relocated a little bit, and we are in the entrance to the Convocation Center, the Walker Convocation Center down here on the campus of West Virginia State. And again, we're joined by head men's basketball coach Bryan Poore, and I want to talk about something you guys both touched on earlier. Carl, you talked about the history, and we talked about the statue, but now we're in front of the statue. This thing's huge.
It is. It's my baby, actually, and it's crazy story. I had not been going to the Final Fours, and that's the College Basketball Coaches Convention. Had not been going for a few years. This arena was in the works. We knew we were going to build it. the Final Four that year was in New Orleans, and my wife had never been to New Orleans, so she's like, let's go this year because I want to see New Orleans. So we went, and I go into the convention center and the expo center where they have all the vendors set up, and all the way across the expo center was Shaq dunking, a statue of Shaq dunking a ball. And that's exactly where I walked to first. I got to go see who that is, who did that, how much one of those costs, because we need one of those. And that's where I met Brian Hanlon. And I talked to Brian, and I said, we need one of those of Earl Lloyd. And the guy turned his head and went, you mean the Earl Lloyd? Which surprised me that he knew Earl Lloyd. But he was the official sculptor for the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. The year Earl got inducted into that was the first year that Brian was there. Earl and Brian connected like Earl does with everybody, or did with everybody, connected with him, befriended him, took him to dinners and all that. And Brian says, I'm going to do it. We'll figure out the cost later. And, you know, months and months later, Brian charges nothing for his artistic work. A guy by the name of Manny Jackson ended up paying for it to get bronzed, and then we got the NBA to pay for the base. So it ended up costing the university nothing.
So, first of all, that's a fantastic story. He was so impressed. He was so impressed that he said, okay, I'm just going to do this.
Yeah, and you know, he's a real passionate guy. He's a track guy. He was a track guy, so he didn't know basketball at all, never really been to any games. And like I say, at the Final Four, that's when they bring the inductees for that year's enshrinement into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame, which is not only college, but it's pro and it's international and it's women's. It's the Basketball Hall of Fame. And so Brian goes there and knows nobody. He's never been in the basketball world, doesn't even know really how the game's played. And Earl just took him under his wing and said, you know, hey, sit with me during the game. He took him to dinners and sat with him, and that's just the way Earl was. And so Brian was real adamant about it. And he's who, you know, connected us with Manny Jackson. And that year at the induction of Hall of Fame, Rick Pitino went in. I don't remember who else went in that year, but I went up to it with Brian and met with Manny Jackson. And that's when we kind of sat down and showed him the clay model at that time. He had already worked the clay out.
Brian did that?
Yeah, Brian did that and had it, you know, it's in clay, and then you take the clay and you actually put the bronze over top of it. And that's when we sat down with Manny and broke it down. This is how much we need. And Manny was just super. He goes, whatever you need for Earl, man, I'll do whatever you need for Earl. And so that's how the statue came to be.
Did you have a relationship with Earl? I mean,
absolutely. Earl and I were very, very close. You know, I brought him back here in 2003. I say we brought him back here. Bob Parker at the time was the AD to retire his jersey because nobody retired his jersey. So I talked to him on the phone a couple times.
Nobody ever had retired his jersey.
Not until 2003. And so I talked to him on the phone a couple times. Then he came in for the weekend, and then that personal connection between he and I really grew so strong that, I mean, I went down and spent the night with him, you know, and my father and I. And he wanted me to bring my family down, a vacation at his house and all this. And I'm like, Earl, I'm not bringing my whole family, but my dad and I, so, you know, I spent a lot of time over those, you know, really about 10 years after we brought him in before he passed away with him. Another piece that we've got going on that is supposed to come out this month, February, is a documentary on Earl Lloyd. It's called The First to Do It. And Earl actually, before he signed the deal to actually give them the rights to his life story, he made them name me a producer. So I'm actually a film producer.
Nice, look at you.
Because he wanted me to be there to protect him. And he said, Coach knows everything about me. He has the right to cut anything out or put anything in that he wants about my life story. So hopefully that's going to come out here this month. And the NBA has gotten behind it. And I mean, Carmelo Anthony's in it, Kawhi Leonard's in it. I mean, we got some big names in it as well.
How is it, Coach, that he kind of slipped through the national radar, the local radar, the regional?
Why is he not known like Jackie Robinson is?
Yeah.
That's a great question.
I asked Earl that himself, and you know, to know Earl, you would know why, because Earl was so humble. And so and he would defer all that. He goes, Coach, Jackie did it before I did. I mean, it was easy for me. No, it wasn't, Earl.
Yeah.
I mean, you're still not staying in the same hotels and eating at the same restaurants and, you know, getting spat on when you're coming off the floor and getting your mom's in the bleachers and she's getting, you know, stuff yelled at her, and so he went through all that. But he would always defer that to everybody else. And now I'll tell this quick story, and then I'll let you answer or ask me a question. But he was inducted into the Naismith Hall of Fame, and this will tell you why Earl's name's not out there. You get a spire that's about this tall, weighs almost 40 pounds or so. It's a trophy, basically, who Bryan sculpts, all right? So we go down to actually start the documentary. Earl was in the hospital, and he never came out of the hospital from that time. But Earl was in the hospital, and 3 or 4 or 5 years earlier, I was in that den, in his house. In his house, you do not see one picture, one trophy, one artifact that ever tells you he played basketball in his house.
Really?
Visible. Not one. I didn't really think of it when I was there just visiting with him. But then when we go back to do the documentary and we start to get B-roll footage, all right? I got the lingo too, B-roll footage. And we're going around the house and getting shots. And Kevin, his son, opens up the closet door that was behind the chair that I was sitting in talking to him in his den. And there's all of his trophies. And in the floor, in the closet, is his Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame trophy. That's why nobody knows Earl Lloyd's name, because Earl was just so humble and just so unassuming.
But okay, so with that being said, you always, in my own head, I'm thinking like, okay, that humble guy is the guy that everybody really wants to push, right? You know this is the guy. He's never going to push himself. It seems to me like somewhere somebody should have been like, hey, let's push it. Even before you got to it, by the time you got to it, really you could make the case it was way late.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And so it just amazes me that even the NBA didn't go out there and try to push that, especially with when you look at the numbers, the ratio of black athletes in basketball. Seems like somebody would want to say, hey, here is this guy. If it would have been, if it came from Kentucky, would it maybe been different?
I think so. And I will say this, I think the NBA kind of pushed him within their own inner circle, because they would always have him come and speak to the rookies and do some educational things and talk about his time in the NBA, some of that stuff.
Just no connection here.
Yeah, but it wasn't necessarily, I don't think, necessarily really pushing his legacy, because his name's not out there.
Right.
And we got the Players Union behind us first, but then the NBA has finally kind of stepped in too.
Where can people see this documentary? Where is it going to be shown?
It's supposed to be, and I've been texting and calling the executive producer in the last couple of days, because it's been kind of in the can. It's even been at, we went up to New York to the, the name's slipping me, but they had a movie.
Film
festival up there. My wife will kill me because she went with me and she loved the place. So it's been out there and it's been ready. And we were going to release it at the beginning of the season. Then the NBA says, no, let's wait till February, Black History Month. And so it's supposed to come out here February. The plan was, the last time I talked to him, I've been busy with my season somewhat, but the last time I talked to him, the first venues of showing the film is going to be in the arenas. The LA Forum had agreed to show it. Madison Square Garden's agreed to show it. The Cleveland Cavaliers were going to show it in theirs. San Antonio Spurs, I think, had agreed to show it. So several of the arenas were going to show it. Then it was going to be in the movie theaters. So it's supposed to be in the movie theaters.
That's fantastic.
And then hopefully be out in other venues, Facebook and all those kinds of things. So.
Well, Coach, we've run out of time. I got to tell you, man, I've known you for, we're just going to say a long time now. We're all saying a number of years. I think what you've done here is absolutely phenomenal. I wish you much success on this season and in the future, and especially with the documentary, Mr. Producer.
Yes.
But listen, this has been West Virginia Sports Connection. Again, you can check us out on Facebook, on YouTube, on Apple iTunes, and our website at wvsportsconnection.com. Go check out a game at State. We'll see you next time.